All right, welcome to the Nitty Gritty. I don't know if you can hear the nervousness in my voice, but boyhood hero.
Oh,
so this is pretty cool. You've come in to eat a few times, and I feel like I miss you all the time, but we are friends on Twitter.
There you go.
So that was an exciting day for me, but the man, the myth, the legend, Dale Murphy.
It's great to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dale.
You do great work. Congratulations on your podcast. I've had a podcast. I did one with Bill Riley for a couple months. It's not easy to keep it going. So congratulations.
Thank goodness for Andrew and Brent on that.
Yeah, good work, guys.
I wouldn't be very consistent if it was just me.
It's a challenge.
It is
to stay in there every week, and you guys have done a great job. So I'm honored to be a part of your podcast, Nitty Gritty. Thank you.
Thank you, man. He's even name dropping for us already. You're good, and you showed up 30 minutes early. It's the most punctual guest we've ever had.
It's the first time I've shown
probably the most famous.
30 minutes early to anything. Sure. but
we did give him food, right? A little pregame meal. So
I kind of got stressed. Cam's like, he's here. I'm like, oh no. I think I told him the right time.
Yeah.
It's funny because normally I just come right out, but with the podcast, you almost don't want to talk too much before the podcast because then you end up talking about what you want to talk about on the podcast. Yeah. And so anyway, it was kind of funny, but no, we're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. And I'm the older I get, you know, it's interesting. During my career, I was pretty reserved. I wasn't a good quote. You know, they'd come in after the game. Murph says the same old thing. Well, you know, we got to get him tomorrow. But the older I get, the more opinionated I get. So,
so what you're saying is we're gonna have some fun.
I don't know. I guess
I was going to say Dale Murphy opinionated is probably different.
Nancy's probably really nervous right now. What are you going to say? And
it's kind of like when Dave Rose came on. He was like, I'm not coaching anymore. Let's do this.
He let it out.
No, there is a different. Is kind of a, you know, my personality. I like Corey. He's a Braves guy, but Chipper Jones. I've always enjoyed those guys that just let it fly.
Right.
And I'm like, how does Chipper say that stuff?
Well,
you know, and there's other athletes like that for the betterment of their team, and sometimes not for, you know.
Right.
So anyway, I'm a lot more opinionated, I guess, but maybe it's the social media and all this stuff, you know, there's just other outlets, but I think it is with my age. And when I was playing, I was pretty reserved. It's just part of my personality. And
was it intentional?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was just, you know, like if I had a good game, I think there was just more of this, a little bit of, I was a little worried sometimes. You know, I never wanted to give another pitcher, another team, any kind of bulletin.
Ammunition?
Yeah, ammunition. I just wanted to downplay it, you know, instead of saying, yeah, that guy had nothing tonight. You know, it's like that. You know what I mean?
That's why Tom Glavine didn't hit you that one time, right? he liked you too much.
Oh, well, that's one question that comes up about once a month on social media. So it'll be good to have another outlet to talk about the Tom Glavine incident.
It's a great story, at least what I know of it.
Yeah,
it's a great story.
We'll get back to that. But anyway, yeah, and it is part of my personality, which I think has evolved since I've gotten older and not really right in the thick of things. I think there were times probably when with the Atlanta Braves, the organization probably could have used a little kick in the pants from a player that had been there a long time. But I also firmly believe that if I felt that, then I should go talk to the general manager personally. I shouldn't do it in an interview. You know what I mean? But I look back and say there are probably times when I could have been a little more opinionated that would have been helpful. I don't buy the athletes that say whatever they want to say, and people say, oh, what a great leader he is. I don't believe that. I believe if you're having a problem with a teammate, you got to go talk to the teammate.
Right.
I think what you do when you're a part of a ball club and you're doing interviews publicly about the problems of your team, you're really making it about you.
Yeah.
You go talk to the coach, you go talk to that person, and it's more effective. I just think people really resent taking the challenges you have with your club public like that. People don't receive criticism well in that space.
Yeah, which is all too common today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in the most popular league right now.
Everything's over Twitter and Instagram.
Basketball.
Yeah.
They all do it.
Yeah, they do. And it just always puzzled me because their leadership would just be enhanced and respected. But when they call people out, I just, and when they get praised for it, I'm like, that's, that is just not the way things, you could be just that much more effective and really have the respect and maintain friendships as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think leaders do. So even that, I wish there were times when I was more vocal on the teams, but I did try to help guys out and talk to them. I mean, but as far as public interviews, I was pretty reserved.
Well, but you could also probably say that's why you were so loved and respected too.
Well, and that's an interesting comment because I think I took that a little bit. I think I took it to the extreme is what I'm saying. You're right. I didn't say anything controversial.
Right.
So, hey, Murph's fine. But also there was probably times when I should have taken a stand.
Can you think of anything specifically?
Well, one situation where I did take a stand was women reporters in the locker room.
Right.
And I don't know. It was just such a new thing for us in the 80s. I'm like,
that had to be so awkward.
It was, but and obviously I've changed my position on that. I personally don't think any reporters really need to be in our locker room
for sure.
So, but it is their space and they get stories, and now women are there. There's women trainers. So that I was a little vocal about that. I don't think I was on the right side of history. I should have been, hey, I understand. Let's work out a solution where everything, so.
At least let us get changed before you come in the locker room.
And probably steroids. People ask me about steroids all the time. Why didn't you say anything? And so I was kind of a player at the time when, Jose Canseco pretty much said mid-'80s, 86, 87, 88 is kind of when they started with the Oakland Athletics. But it really wasn't widespread. But I retired in 93, and it started to really percolate.
Right.
And I'm not saying I should have said anything publicly like, hey, look at this guy. It should have been, I wish I would have gone up to some players I really suspected, and maybe I could have helped them and could have said, hey,
it's not worth it.
It really looks like you're doing it. You don't need it. I'm really concerned about it. But it was a weird time. We were trying to feel our way around it.
Were players talking
no.
with each other about what was going on?
No, and that's people are saying, "Well, did you see it?" It's like no, because if you Jose Canseco, which is interestingly. He has a lot of credibility now on the subject because he's one of the few guys you feel is being honest about it.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he says, no, we injected each other in the bathroom stalls. It wasn't out in the open.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of there, and then it got really crazy. And I wish maybe I'd gone to management and said, you guys, you better crack down on this. And then it got away from us and hurt the sport. And everybody calls it now the steroid era. And it hurt a lot of young people, hurt the sport, the credibility of statistics, all that kind of stuff. And so you asked me two examples where I wish I'd, been more vocal, and those are probably the two that come to mind.
Interesting. Yeah, the whole steroid thing was because you're still kind of recovering from the whole strike, right?
Oh yeah,
and fans weren't all the way back. Sucked everybody in, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah, all the home runs.
Then the news hits, and it's almost like you're back to square one, or maybe even further back than you were before the strike. When was the strike?
94. Yeah, I retired in 93, and then they canceled the World Series in 94. You look back and you're like, wow, did that really happen? So.
It's crazy. I do remember the summer with Sosa and McGuire and Bond.
We were all. I was watching.
Watching.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
But we were kind of buried our heads in the sand and just kind of turned a blind eye to a percolating problem. And
so a comment I always hear, it's like they did it, but they were the only ones who got caught. Do you think it was more widespread than what's come out?
Yeah, it's more widespread, but probably not the predictions of what some people said. I think Ken Caminetti said 75% of the guys, at one time. I don't think it was that high. But it was probably, yes, more widespread. I mean, we still have issues occasionally, but now with better testing and everything, we still catch guys. But the real challenge is it's helpful, and there's a financial incentive.
Yeah.
And we all a couple documentaries, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, goes into the challenge of the human makeup and competition, and why do we do this stuff?
Right.
And you hear these stories. What was it? 80% of people would cut off 10 years of their life if they knew they could win a gold medal. I mean, they wouldn't. They don't. We don't care. So, what kind of argument do you use for young people? If we're all human beings and we love the competition and the financial incentive.
Right.
And, what I like to say is you got to do your best at this time right now to see the big picture. It's hard to see it right now, but trust me, from someone who's been there, you want to do things the right way.
Right.
If it lasts 20 years, if you only get a shot for a year, you want your legacy to be, I did it the right way. Because even if you look at the guys that have come out and honestly said they've done it, people don't respect their achievements.
Yep.
Or
their legacy.
For sure.
The
Gone.
legacy. It's
Take
just
a lifetime to build, and just like that, it can be gone.
right. And so that's a real hard thing to tell young people.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the argument, because it's like saying, well, this stuff doesn't work. Well, it does work.
Yeah.
Guys are still using them. But also, young people now, every sport is testing a lot better, a lot more. You need self-respect and respect of others. But it's still a temptation out there. But baseball is doing a lot better, thankfully.
So, Dale, I want to kind of learn a little bit more about you growing up, because high school All-State, you got drafted 5th overall out of high school. When did you first pick up baseball? Like when did the love start, and did you do multiple sports, or were you always laser focused on baseball?
Yeah, I grew up in the generation born in '56, so my era was not a generation that concentrated on a sport. It just, those kind of things didn't exist. I didn't play my first baseball game till I was 8, which is 4 years late.
Exactly.
Now.
Exactly.
So there's pros and cons to that. But I was pretty typical for a kid growing up in the 60s, Portland, Oregon. I actually took wrestling at the YMCA. I remember that. I came home and I learned all these things about wrestling, how to pin people, and I tried to demonstrate it on my sister Susan. And she put me in a headlock and pinned me. So I said, I'm not going to be a wrestler. Let me see what else I did. We were doing all kinds of things, but I played Pop Warner football, played some football. I played freshman year in high school. But I did kind of recognize actually that football is not going to really work out for me. So I did concentrate in high school on basketball and baseball.
Okay.
But as a baseball player, since they draft high school players, that scouts are watching you. Unlike you go to your basketball game, you don't have professional scouts watching you. You may have a coach from a college to offer you a scholarship, but it's a strange feeling sometimes to say, man, I got professional scouts watching my high school games. So
nerve-wracking. At that age.
Was. Yeah, it was, and it can be.
When did it start to happen?
Probably my sophomore year in high school,
really?
Because I had a really good arm, and scouts were, of course, watching other players. I was still 2 years away from being draftable, but people were talking about, look at this kid throw. Look at this kid. You got to watch this Murphy kid. And so and then junior year, I didn't catch because I had a knee problem, played first, but I was starting to hit. And then my senior year, I was back to catching. And we had a really good program in Portland, Oregon. Jack Dunn was our coach, Hall of Fame, high school and college Hall of Fame, both. And so I didn't pitch. Usually the guy with the best arm pitches a lot.
Right.
But we had enough in a good enough program, enough pitchers that he kept me behind the plate, so my arm was never tired. I was firing the ball, and I was tall, real skinny. I could hit a little bit, but I was drafted, because I was a catcher, and And
tall catcher.
Yeah, I was.
Man.
Yeah, and that's a comment that comes up all the time, and especially for that generation.
Right.
Because,
right.
And so, I was drafted as a catcher in 74. So,
Yeah.
In those days, you had no idea, really, no information. Now kids know everything.
Or scouting websites.
Yeah,
and
you know
lists,
everything.
Twitter.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sitting there with my mom and dad. We're sitting there and go, well, I guess I might be drafted today. Waiting for the phone to ring. And I thought it would be the Phillies. They flew me back for a pre-draft workout.
Right.
The only pre-draft workout I had, because you got about 2 or 3 weeks before school ends. And so I was like, oh, the Phillies. And so got a call. This is so-and-so from the Atlanta Braves. We drafted you. I was like,
wow.
We'll have a scout come out there. You guys negotiate, and me and my dad put the screws to the. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't know. You don't know what anybody signed for the year before.
Right.
You don't know you don't have no information.
Well, yeah.
So I signed for a little over $50,000. Fifth guy picked in the draft. I was going to go to Arizona State and play ball there, and I signed and
so just straight to the minors? Is that?
Yeah. Especially then, but I played combined 4 years of minor league baseball because the kids nowadays go a little bit higher. They could go to AA or they could go to single A, right, because they started when they were 4 years old and they played travel ball. And I needed every year of that apprenticeship in the minor league. So sometimes people are surprised. I was like, no, I played a year of winter ball in the Dominican Republic and 2 years of instructional league in Florida during the off season. So that's when you started playing ball.
That's when you learned how to be a pro.
Yeah, and these guys really are kind of semi-pros with these travel teams.
For sure.
They are so mature. Their swings are so much better. They're so much better athletes than we were. And they're so ready to go to the big leagues. It's astonishing to me how good these young players are. And the Atlanta Braves have some of the best, but they're amazing now. And every sport's kind of like that.
It's true. We talk about it all the time in here, how we can't stand what youth sports is turning into. We all grew up with being able to play, a different sport every season. And I think it's important to be able to really find the one that you love to play. And I do feel like a lot of the parents in these travel, because hockey's the same way. Like if you want to get better in hockey, there's no city leagues. It's like you got to jump right to a travel team. And it is, some of the parents want it worse than the kids do.
It's a challenge.
And it's nuts. But
I've had, one of the problems with baseball is it's expensive. And people said, do you know anybody that plays travel hockey?
Oh, my
you think baseball is expensive.
It is crazy how expensive.
But it's a challenge because it does, and baseball has been trying to address this because it becomes a socio-economic problem for access.
And it should be so much more accessible considering that you need a mitt, some cleats, and a bat. You know what I mean? And you don't need the full, hockey. You grow out a kid needs new skates every year. The hockey sticks are $300 now.
Yeah.
You got to have two of them at all times.
Sticks
it's crazy.
So it's a challenge in baseball. They're trying to figure out what to do because you don't want it to be, and we have very few African-American players that are involved in baseball as a result of a lot of challenges, but that's one of them.
Just the economic part. That's really interesting. I've never really thought about that because, Major League Baseball needs all the help it can get right now. And, you were talking about big picture earlier. That seems like a no-brainer because, I think everybody played baseball. I played baseball up until high school, and I loved it. But I've put my son in a couple leagues, and it's like the whole part. You're either like participation trophy, like spray painted bases.
Yeah.
Just everybody gets to bat, and then you go out to the field. No 3 outs, no keeping score. Or you're like hardcore travel club, and you're paying $5,000 a year.
Good
and
point.
it's like, man, what happened to just your good local little league?
It's kind of what's happened in every single sport.
And
right?
you're right.
No, you're right.
Totally
it's a real challenge. And what you want to create what you want to create with those opportunities is not necessarily future baseball players.
Right.
You want to create fans.
Absolutely.
You want to
Such a
create
good
people
point.
that love the game of baseball because they had a good experience.
Right.
And so, and
No one's ever said it that way, and that's such
a really
good
good point.
well, because you love hockey and you excelled at it, but now you're a great fan, right? I mean,
Totally. And, I wish I was a bigger fan of baseball. I grew up really loving baseball. I grew up following the Dodgers. Like, but I can't watch a game. I don't know what it is. I just can't, unless it's playoffs. I do love the playoffs.
Playoff baseball, like a lot of sports, is a little more entertaining, but they got some other issues. It's well, where do we start? Well, part of it is the length of the game.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. Who sits in front of, football game? Let's say it lasts 4 hours. You're never sitting there in front of 4 hours of football. The commercial and
right.
But baseball's, the pace of the game is hard to market. It is a tough game to learn as a young person. A lot of people give up because the hand-eye coordination, the whole rules, but we need to make it more accessible for the future fans. And as we talked about earlier, we've lost fans at the major league level 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And so what's going on? Well, there's a number of things. The game is long. It can be marketed better. We have high definition screens that make going to the ballpark on every sport less attractive. A football game, I'm sorry, but there is no better seat. I don't think.
100%.
Your living room, except for the excitement of being there. But you're sitting there during the commercials of a football game instead of going to the refrigerator. So high definition TVs. I mean, it really is. And
ticket prices.
Ticket prices. I saw something online once said, all Major League Baseball needs to do is lower the price of tickets. And I thought, well, that's kind of a simplistic answer, but that's the problem. It's too expensive.
Yep.
Baseball used to pride itself, and it probably still is one of the cheaper ways to go to watch a professional sport, but it's still too expensive. The economy is not rolling like everybody thinks it is. And when you add up the cost of the ticket, which is, you can get into a baseball game relatively cheaply, but you can't park cheaply, you can't eat everything, and there's a time commitment too. And if we're averaging 3 hours a game, people are going to say, I'll tune in at home.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
So
just watch Sports Center. Like, just watch the
and turn on your phone. I mean, I have the Major League app. I check out highlights. They got some things. If you want people in the ballpark, that we need to do differently.
See, and I would argue there's two sports that are just so much more enjoyable live, that baseball and hockey.
Yeah.
It's funny because unless it's playoffs, I even struggle watching hockey sometimes. But whether you're a fan or not, that is still an experience. And so I would think that getting butts in seats would be a huge priority just because of that, keeping people interested in the game. Because you go, and then there probably is a residual 10 to 15 games watching on TV and interacting with the website.
I see upper decks empty in Major League Baseball. I'm like, why are those seats empty?
Those should just be
you
freebies.
Would be creating fans.
Yep.
It would be worth giving them away, 10,000 a night, because now with data, you know which teams, you got available tickets.
For sure.
Go give those things away, and those things like that. But you're right. I have to say, I went to a playoff hockey game.
Oh, man.
The Chicago Blackhawks.
That's my team.
There you go. In the 80s.
Right.
So was that at the old Chicago?
Yeah, old Chicago Stadium.
I mean, I was in awe. Literally, someone got some tickets.
How cool.
And I get goosebumps right now feeling the energy and to say something about a game in person is different. Hockey is the perfect example, and I might say soccer too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm converted to this professional soccer. I went to one of the Atlanta games.
Oh, I love it.
And I was down on the field. Long story, but bottom line, I was looking around. First of all, you know how Atlanta draws really well with their hockey team. It was before they got into Mercedes-Benz Field where the Falcons play. It was at Georgia Tech. So it holds 25,000 or 30, whatever. And the thing was packed, and people were on their feet the whole time cheering. And I was like, there's no energy like this at a baseball game, which is understandable. Baseball's different.
Right.
But there are some attractive things about baseball, and one of them is the pace of the game. It really is fun to sit there on a nice summer night watching guys that are the best in their craft and time to kind of absorb what's going on, which some sports it's hard to follow, but we got some issues, and I think they're trying. And, so they're trying, but I have some differences of opinion. And I'll just tell you one. I think, and a lot of players say this, but marketing the game it's got to be much more creative and much more. I have some friends I played high school baseball with, did not know who Mike Trout played for. And these guys follow the game. They're baseball players in high school. They were like, Mike Trout. They go, yeah, I've heard of him, but
holy crap.
So I'm like, everybody should know who Mike Trout is, who he plays for. It's got to be.
That's a great point.
It costs a lot of money. And they go, well, Mike Trout's personality is kind of quiet, kind of like mine was.
Right.
I go, Mike Trout will do, pick a charity.
Right.
Let's say he works for his charity is cystic fibrosis, which I was thankful to be associated with during my career. You go to Mike Trout and say, Mike, we're going to donate $1 million to cystic fibrosis. We want you to do this commercial. You're going to have to step out of your comfort zone and brag about yourself or do something creative.
Right.
He'd do it in a minute.
No doubt.
First of all, money doesn't drive him so much as, being able to help people and then help the game. But you got to think way outside the box. And I know they're doing some things, but Mike Trout should be much more embedded in the consciousness of the people of the United States.
He should be right up there with LeBron.
Yeah.
Like even basketball fans know who LeBron is and where he's playing. People that aren't basketball fans know who he is, who he plays for.
And there's a number of guys, but it would take Major League Baseball to spend the money. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't Coke, no, Major League Baseball, you spend the money on promoting your guys. You pay that guy, whoever he plays for, Cleveland Indians or Pittsburgh Pirates. You got to come up with the money because these guys make so much money now. A commercial doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, I got a story about that.
Let's hear it.
Giancarlo Stanton. I was with, can't remember who I was with. It'll come to me while we talk. But I was doing something, retired guys get asked to make appearances. And I said, what are you doing now? He goes, oh, I'm doing some things for the Marlins. Occasionally I live in Miami. He goes, last week I did something for the Marlins. They called me up. He's a retired player. And they said, hey, Stanton doesn't want to do this, Giancarlo Stanton. Will you fill in for him? He goes, yeah, what do you got to do? He goes, you got to get up and get introduced, say a couple things about, shake some hands, take some pictures, probably be there 45 minutes. They'll pay you $25,000.
Jeez.
And it just didn't mean anything to Giancarlo Stanton because who knows what he was making, $20 million. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
So if you're going to ask Stanton, or these guys are making so much money, in the old days, I would have done a commercial just like that.
Right.
Not that we weren't making good money from back then, but the point is the financial incentive to market your team costs a lot of money. Market your sport, and baseball should come up with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, So marketing is a challenge too, but baseball is kind of tricky to market too.
So I'd read a story about you, and it was kind of funny. I want to see how accurate it was, but they were talking about when you learned how to throw. They said your dad was out trying to teach you how to throw. And you came in and you were watching Ted Williams on TV, and you're like, Dad, is that how I do it? And like you walk out and like your dad had spent like hours like teaching you some of the fundamentals of throwing.
Yeah.
And you watch Ted throw one ball and you go, like that, Dad? And he's like, yeah. And then you walked out and did it like perfect. He was like,
visual learner.
Yeah. It's a hard game to teach, and with one game a week especially.
Right.
But yeah, I did learn a lot about my hitting stance and things from game of the week. And my dad was a good athlete, loved to golf, did a few things in high school and college. And he one thing he did too is I learned to enjoy catching little plastic golf wiffle balls he'd hit with his in the backyard, and I'd catch them with my glove. And so
he's out chipping.
Yeah. And so my mom and dad were great. My mom is still living in the Portland area out in Hillsboro. They were great, always giving me a chance to play. Never felt any pressure about playing or my performance or anything. So, yeah, Ted Williams. I should have watched him hitting.
I think what a hitter with the baseball bat.
Yeah, well, and nothing like Ted.
Yeah, something else I was reading, because in high school you got baptized into the church, right?
Well, a little, not quite.
Okay.
No. I was drafted in 1974, and then I was baptized in 1975 while I was playing minor league baseball.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so
that's crazy.
So I was
to a church in minor league baseball
in Greenwood, South Carolina.
Like minor league baseball, I just imagine is like a pretty
Bull Durham.
Like, yeah, exactly, right? It's just this crazy.
Yeah, well, it is.
Wow.
It is crazy. But I had a great friend and teammate, Barry Bonnell, who was a recent convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and shared with me his testimony in the Book of Mormon, and so that was. Yeah, in South Carolina, there was a little branch there, and so I was 19.
That's cool.
It was a great experience.
The story, it talked about how the owner of the Braves, was it Ted Turner?
Yeah, so yes, I know what you're going to talk about now, because so President Spencer W. Kimball was president of the church and prophet, and he was putting out the call to go on a missions.
Yeah,
and I was a recent convert. I'm like, that's what I want to do. You know. I'm going to quit baseball and go on a mission.
Oh,
well,
my
parents.
Football feels like every year for me. It's like, please don't go.
And so I did some serious soul searching and praying and considering, to the point where I told my parents I was seriously considering it, and I told the Braves, and it didn't go over well with Ted Turner.
Well, the story says like you hadn't even like signed your contract yet.
Oh, the Predators just scored. Sorry, I forgot to turn that off.
I love it.
I forgot I just put batteries in it this morning.
That is awesome.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, Dale.
So who scored?
Embarrassing. Predators. I have the Predators and the Blackhawks set up, so every time they score, it goes off. But anyway.
Yeah,
I'll go turn it off.
Ted was unconventional, to say the least.
Yeah.
And he was really uninhibited. And so I wasn't even in the major leagues. But I was the top prospect.
For sure.
And word got back to him. He called me up. And he said, Murph, if you go, I don't know what you read, but there was a quote floating around there. He said, hey, that's fine with me, but I just want you, seriously, this is what he said. Yeah, you'd be great, but I just want you to know I'm going to kill myself, and I'm going to kill my family, and then you can serve on your mission with that blood on your hands. Oh. No, I'm not kidding.
Gosh.
Oh, that was,
and I'm
19 years old?
19. It was probably the next year, but I was a member of the church for about a year. And I was like, this guy is so scary. Ted, he's my owner, you know. But I decided, I talked to a lot of people and, like I said, prayed about it a lot and decided to keep playing. And
yeah. Well, because the next year you went on to win Rookie of the Year, right? In the International League?
Did I really? Because when you said Rookie of the Year, I was like, I didn't win any Rookies of the Year, but I might have won it in the International League, AAA. What year does it say?
77.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're a really good baseball player. When you can't remember Player of the Year awards.
Ago that was.
Yeah,
but I did. Right. I had a good year in 77 in AAA, so I was just on the verge. And then 78 was my first year in Atlanta. Full time.
What was the hardest adjustment, like going from AAA minors to playing in the majors?
A number of things. There's things, and you got to be careful with saying it. There's easier things in the major leagues. Number one is back then, every major league stadium was lit really well. In the minor leagues, back then, not every minor league ballpark was lit as well.
Right.
Just the lights. So you could see the ball. You know what I mean? But of course, you had better pitchers. But the other advantage, so to speak, is that you were facing pitchers that had experience and they had better control. a good pitcher realizes that he's got to force. In the minor leagues, you're facing guys that aren't ready for the major leagues, and so they don't have. It's just harder to hit. But it also is harder to hit a major league pitcher because he has control. My point is, it's kind of a paradox there. You're going to get pitches to hit. They're going to be a little tougher to hit, but you're going to get pitches to hit. So I would say so there's things that are just slightly easier. But what happens is you get to the major leagues, all of a sudden that ball you hit in the gap, there was a double in AAA, a major league center fielder goes over and gets it faster.
I was going to say the fielding has to be
the speed of the game.
And I wouldn't just say in every sport it's the speed.
100%.
You get down on the floor of any sport right now at the major league level, it's fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's just keeping adjusting to the speed of the defense. We didn't have as many hard throwers as the game does now, but occasionally you'd face guys that 95 plus, and that's fairly common now. So pitching and defense.
Okay.
And then just the level of competition day in and day out, because when you think about it, in the minor leagues, you're facing a prospect, and then you're facing two guys that aren't going to make it. And then you may face another club. You got 3 games with them. You're facing a prospect and 2 guys that probably aren't going to make it.
Right.
So but in the major leagues, there's no break. I mean,
everybody's the best at what they're doing.
Everybody is the best. Obviously, you're going to have a 4th starter is not quite your ace, but he's pretty good. He's in the big leagues.
Right. Well, I imagine travel plays into that too. Minors, you're bussing, right?
Yeah, in the minor leagues, that's another thing that people say, well, you're traveling all the time. Yeah, but you're chartering.
Yeah,
you can sleep on a plane. We had it, so, but it's obviously 162 games. So
that's an interesting thing that there are things I've never really heard somebody say that it could be easier. And I guess they're all the pros, but I get that. I mean, a little more comfortable, better lighting
makes it harder.
Let's say in hockey, maybe you get more passes where they should be.
Totally
you know what I mean? It's like on your stick. Is that hockey?
Right.
But you also got a guy.
You
got a guy in front of you that wasn't there in minor league hockey,
and
or
that's
something.
Totally right.
Or say goalies.
They'll close on you a lot faster.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and everything is just
what might have been a base hit in AAA. It's not getting out of the infield. And major.
Yeah, there's. And they have more. This is more even back then. They have more data on you, so they know where to play you. Right. Because AAA, you don't play each other as often. You know what I mean?
See, I wanted to ask you about that. What was your reaction when because you started as you pitched, caught, you were drafted as a catcher. So that day when they asked you to move to outfield, how did that go? Well, catcher is to me, the manliest position in baseball. It's where the fun is. I caught a lot in baseball. I loved it. But
were you a goalie?
No, it's funny. Goalies are like ninjas. You have to do the splits, and I was a defenseman, but
because that's kind of I would imagine the crossover with catching and being a goalie.
Well, and it's true
to a certain extent.
It's just, but to me, it's one of those. It's a physical position.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
I mean, you're getting bumped into. You're getting hit at the plate.
Of little injuries. Foul tips off your fingers.
Right, throwing out somebody stealing. Second, I mean, all that stuff. It's such a cool position. So
collisions at home plate, which are not happening now, which is
ridiculous.
Which is an interesting transition. But let me tell you, I'd like to share the story. I love to speak now, and now I'm doing Zoom keynotes, I guess you could call them, or Zoom drop-ins. But I love one thing that hasn't been happening a lot since COVID is just my public speaking. But one of my themes of my public speaking is resilience. And a lot of people don't understand how, like you said earlier, everybody kind of thinks that went in a straight line, you signed and you went to the big leagues in 4 years. Well, I was drafted as a catcher, and I learned resilience in a couple ways. Hitting takes a really resilient person and mind to be in there day in and day out and hit a baseball. Right. But my career in general, I learned a great thing about resilience because I was drafted as a catcher. And the best way to describe it is about 76 or 77. I was still catching.
Player of the year.
It is rookie. I gotta
Rookie of the year.
I gotta put that in my bio. How did I forget that? It's probably because rookie of the year in AAA doesn't help a lot in your negotiation. But I developed the yips. Is the best way to put it.
Right.
All sports have them. I'm not sure what it is in hockey, but in basketball, it's the free throw. So, you just can't get the free throw down. Baseball is throwing. Happens to a lot of catchers. It happens to a lot of pitchers. Golf, Charles Barkley. Sorry, Charles.
I don't know if Yips covers that.
Yeah, but putting. Let's take. But there's a psychological thing, and I started not being able to throw very accurately.
Right. Just everywhere, like to second or
at first, it was literally back to the pitcher, and this is not unusual for it. There's just something that, and you're like, but then
I made this throw how many thousands of times, and it just can't
then
get
all it I got
without thinking
the best way to say is I got these, but eventually I got back to the pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay, my throwing to second base was a little rough. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, "What? What's going on with Murph?" And I'll just share one story. I was in AAA catching, probably 77. Which this is probably why I can't believe I won Rookie of the Year in the International League in 77. Because we were in the season a couple weeks, and I got Al Autry, about 6'6", pitching, and I'm back there catching, guy on first. He goes, everybody says he goes, and I get that ball, and I'm firing it, to second base. And big you pitcher you bend down, you get out of the way,
right.
But Al's so big, you just bend down, you just stay on your knees. And I hit Al Autry, my starting pitcher, in the hip.
Oh no.
And so people said, Murph, if you're going to throw it away, just make sure you throw it as hard as you can. That's the best way to get rid of this thing. So I come out firing, and I throw a bullet right into my starting pitcher's hip, and he stayed down. And my point is, that was the point where I wanted to quit.
Oh, man.
I am not going to get out of this problem. How am I going to get out of this? And some guys do. Some guys have had success getting it. And I got better. But at that point, I was like, first of all, as a catcher, when your pitcher gets injured, you go out there and check on him.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not going out there. I know exactly what happened, although he doesn't know what happened. He's like, what happened? So they take him out of the game, and I really wanted to quit at that time. Of course, I can't. What are you going to do? You're going to walk off the field. It's kind of, maybe I'll get hurt because this is embarrassing, humiliating. I've often said that I don't think I would have been able to handle my career on social media. It was relatively anonymous, except for the Braves and the 2,500 people at Parker Field in Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
And my team.
That's an interesting point. And what you mean by that is reading what people are saying about me on Twitter when I had a bad game. I don't think I could handle that.
I really don't think I could. I was not made for this generation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to quit. And I remember a few games in 77, they put me at first base. I got better, but never major league caliber. 78, I moved to first base in Atlanta. 79, I was a catcher first baseman. I got hurt. But I still, my hitting started to get better. So my point of resilience was I wanted to quit, but I decided to just see what it would happen the next day.
Well, that's crazy. I mean, even as late as 79.
Right. I was catching in the major leagues. I think I got about 100 games as a catcher in the major leagues, but I also had a bunch at first base. But my throwing was still not going to be good enough to maintain a position in the big leagues as a catcher or a first baseman. I think I led the league in errors in 78 at first.
Wow. Wow.
And so I'm like, but I hung in there and just kept showing up, and my hitting started to come around. And that's what I say about resilience is just kind of keep showing up. Something's going to emerge. Maybe I would have ended up quitting, which, sometimes you go a different direction in your life. But I stayed with that sport, and people said, we're going to find something for you because your hitting is coming around. And that's in the winter of 79. Nancy and I got married here in October of 79, and I got a phone call from Bobby Cox about a month after we got married. We were living in an apartment here in Provo. What do you think about the outfield, Murph? And I was like, well, do I have a choice? He's kind of like, not really. So in other words, a lot of people say, well, how'd you handle that? I was like, very thankful. Because I was like, okay, I think I can do this. You get out there, the process, fresh start, different position. The throws are not, you don't have to have pinpoint accuracy like you do in the infield. And I'm so grateful. And I'm thankful I didn't quit. I really wanted to, but.
That's wild to think 2 years later, those who don't know, in 82, you won the MVP.
Well, in 80, I went to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
The first year in the outfield, I made the All-Star team. I was like, what the heck happened?
I mean, talk about...
Yeah, and then 82, I won my first MVP, and it was just because Bobby, who was my manager then, Bobby Cox, and the Braves said, let's get him to the outfield. And
there's so many cool things on that. Having a coach who believed in you enough to keep giving you chances.
And I was not the only guy in Bobby's career that he gave chances to.
Yeah,
that's what he was known for.
Like, that's so cool. I mean, we've had other stories where people have had, a business leader, express confidence in them that all of a sudden they filled this different role that they never thought they were going to be able to fill. And it's because someone kind of gave them the confidence to do that.
Yeah. Bobby did that. In 83, I ended up hitting 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. The 30-30 thing, which is still kind of unique. And the reason why I stole 30 bases is Joe Torre was our manager then. He goes, Murph, I think you could steal more bases. I think you're a base stealer. And I was like, I had never thought of myself that. I was a big guy that could run. But now he goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you the green light. You don't ever have to get a steal sign. You just go when you think you could go. You'd be a better base stealer at that time and all of a sudden, I'd get out there every opportunity. What's the score of the game? What's the inning? Who's this pitcher? I think, depending on all that stuff, I'm going to try and steal. I ended up stealing 30 bases. But it's because Joe gave me kind of the permission and the trust in me. He said, now, if we're behind 10-0 in the eighth inning and you try to steal second, I'm going to take that green light away from you because what you're so I trust you. You're going to show me that you're deserving of that trust. You're going to pick your spots. And so it just turned it to take your to say what you just said. In my circumstance, a coach said, you can do this. And I'm thankful. So Joe got me running a little bit more. So I ended up with some stolen bases for a few years. But it's exactly because he said you don't need a sign anymore. Your instincts are better than getting a sign.
And what if you wouldn't have been open to it, right? Because I think a lot of us are like, that's not a natural skill of mine. No, I'm not going to move to the outfield. No, I'm not going to try to steal that base. And so we kind of...
Or pride even blocks.
Yeah, a lot of...
exactly. And we retreat from that. Or, I'm going to quit. I'm going to walk away. But you kept showing up. Other people stepped in. And then look what happened. Like those next couple of years.
Yeah, I fell into my own... Yeah.
MVP, Gold Glove, Slugger. Also, I mean, everything you could possibly win... You did.
Well, thank you. And it's
crazy.
Interesting because the older you get, the more people you look at and see who were involved in getting you there.
One of my favorite quotes I just heard was, the bigger the dream, the more important the team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You and your dang quotes. That's a great one. Man.
And I have to say, Nancy, of course, is the MVP of the Murphy family. All this time, we have 8 children. 1980, Chad was born, and the year I retired was when Madison was born. So all during this time, she's raising a family, putting up with me going 0 for 4 and 3 Ks, sometimes 4 strikeouts. So it's not only on the field, but it's family and, your whole life. I have so many people to be grateful for. Nancy's, the one person in my life that has been a constant, and I'm so grateful for her for being there for me and our kids. I mean, It's remarkable when I look back and how many people have helped me.
Well, I think it's interesting to hear. People forget that pro athletes are just like us. They're just better at sports than we are.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as the whole, I think a lot of people think, how do you coach people? Like, they're already so good, blah, 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 blah. But they have the same insecurities and
probably even more so, maybe.
Right. Like, you're right. Because I feel like a lot of really talented pro athletes are, I kept thinking to myself as you were talking about, hitting your pitcher.
Yeah.
You still went to the pros. You were probably a lot better at throwing than you thought. Like, when you're good at something, you're just a lot harder on yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's
right?
a good point. Yeah.
And I do it here with
rookie
food.
Of the year that he forgot about.
Right.
The year he hit his pitcher.
Right. And I mean, to get to the point where you wanted to quit, but the next year you were called up to the major. So it's like, well, I don't think hitting that pitcher hurt you too bad.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear that point of view from, one of the greatest baseball players to ever do it had self-doubt and, man, I was sucking. I don't know what I was doing. I wanted to quit. And it just goes to show that maybe next time you're on Twitter making fun of a pro, like, hey, they might be seeing that. And it's hard. The pressure's high enough. College kids is really what we should be talking about. When I see people rip a college kid on Twitter,
it's great.
I just want to reach the phone and strangle them. It is that what they're doing is so hard. They're not getting paid to do it. That might happen soon, but they're a kid.
No, they're kids.
It's crazy.
You're right, and I think that's another thing. I wasn't made for this era. I don't think I could have taken that. These kids grow up with social media, but still, it's hard to take criticism, and now with social media, it's just so instantaneous, the criticism. But I was going to say, yes. I believe you're talking about times of self-doubt and if you can really make it. I really think in the end that it is a real valuable time because you can get through it.
100%.
And then, it's okay if you're having a time where you don't really know what you're doing and things are not good. You can get through it. Right. And I believe that it's good for any professional athlete to take a specific example of to have a time of extreme doubt.
Yep. Because
that's when you got to figure out how to get through it. Because in the future, so I go to the big leagues, and now all of a sudden I go 4 games without a hit. That didn't happen since
Right.
How am I going to get through that at this level? Well, I can get through it. I know I can get through it. And so times of extreme doubt and loss of self-confidence can be very, very valuable. And
that's huge.
if you have people around, if you have people around that can help you, it's not easy to do on your own.
Yeah.
But if it's okay, that's why getting back to one of the things Nancy's doing now is coaching and with the Clifton Strengths organization, which she speaks to it a lot better. But the point is that coaching is a big thing now, not only in sports, right? We hear about
for sure.
And I firmly believe everybody needs a coach, no matter what you do.
I've had multiple coaches for the last couple of years, and it's been a game changer.
Yeah, and I couldn't have done it without my coaches.
Yeah,
and teammates who at times are coaches.
For sure.
Everybody's a coach, and there's people you can help right now. So that time of extreme doubt and wondering is easier if you have someone there.
Yeah.
Well, that mental part of the game, to me, that's the differentiator between. You look at golf. I know a lot of guys that are PGA good,
that are technically,
but they're not PGA good up here.
Yep.
That you have a bad shot and you can rebound, bounce back from it and get back in the game, and that's. the same goes for business. The same goes.
Absolutely,
you've got to be able to just have a little fight through it, and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But you also have to be able to rely on the people around you, because if you don't have a support system or somebody to say, to have somebody. How many things would you have told Dale Murphy, 1982 Dale Murphy, sitting from this chair? With the experience you have now, it's invaluable. You have to listen.
You got to stay humble. People say, "How do you get through a slump?" Stay teachable.
Yep.
Stay coachable. Because what we tend to do when things tend to go bad, we tend to pull within ourselves. and
sure.
and the counterintuitive thing to do is to open up, and that's pride. As you say, a lot of things, but people can help. Now, not every coach helped me the same amount, but listen, it may be helpful.
Yeah,
and it's that's why we're all those saying we're in this together. Reach out to people. You don't know what they're going through, and you just be kind. Be nice to people. That could help them get through the day. All those kind of things.
Well, what was that talk? Was it President Eyring that talk about treat everybody as if they're going through the hardest thing they've ever gone through, because they probably are.
Probably are. Yeah.
That's true. It's really hard to do, but everybody has something going on that's hard for them. Yeah. And it's hard to remember that and treat everybody kindly, but it's also the same reason we should all go to marriage counseling, everybody.
Well, the thing is,
we need good coaches.
My wife Nancy says is if we called everybody a coach instead of a psychiatrist,
right,
we'd all be.
Isn't that the truth?
That label.
It's labels, but I don't think there's any question that everybody can use counseling and coaching.
Amen. I tell people it's like an oil change. If you're married, you should be going 3 times a year. You need to be able to go to Switzerland and
great idea.
Have somebody, tell you, yeah, maybe you're wrong here. Because my wife can't tell me that because I don't believe her.
Yeah, that's right.
And vice versa. So, but you're right. The label thing's really interesting. I haven't really thought, because I'm very open about marriage counseling because I think it's such a beneficial thing for people. But it is, when you call it psychiatry or counseling, it's just like, I don't need that. Yeah, life coaching
wall goes up.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I mean, would you ever step on a baseball field and here's your hitting coach? Yeah, no thanks. Yeah.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it'd be like, great, watch my swing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Maybe
Tiger, golfers like, a mental mental coach, right, swing coach, et cetera, et cetera.
Nutrition. I mean, yeah. What I found is the greatest athletes in the business, anything actually, they search for accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Like they thrive for it. And so they're always looking for a coach, or they're finding ways to hold themselves accountable because they know that's the only way that they're going to improve.
That's another good thing about a coach. Yeah. It's like, no, you're going to get here at 3:00 tomorrow. We're going to work on something.
Yep. You
probably wouldn't have, want to get to the ballpark at 3:00 in the middle of a slump and go work on stuff. It's like, no, I want to get away from it. Well, accountability, they just have a lot of coaches. And I want to stress teammates too that took the time, because the point of that is that I think everybody can be a coach without the label as a coach. Because I'd have teammates that talk to me, how you feeling, Murph? And I'll tell one example that really helped me in 1978, my first year. People always say, what ball players were really influential? And Gary Matthews, Cubs fans and Phillies fans will know him more than Braves fans. He was with the Braves. He started with the Giants. He was with the Braves. He was honest. He was fun. He was flamboyant. In 1978, he was with us, and before he got traded to the Phillies. He won the World Series with the Phillies in '83. Pete Rose, and they had a great team. But I'm a young rookie, 78. I'm sitting by the batting cage. I'm really struggling. And Gary goes, how you feeling, Murph? I'm like, I'm feeling okay. He goes, are you scared? I said, what? I was offended. I mean, I'm in the big leagues. Do I look scared? And that's exactly what I thought. He goes, because you look scared up there. You look worried. You look scared, like you don't have any confidence. And it really bugged me. I mean, that's just a punch to the gut for someone to ask you if you're playing scared. And it was a tipping point. And I've thanked him over the years. Now we've all been retired for all these years, and I saw him at an alumni thing. I go, sweet. That's what our nickname for him. I go, hey, I got to talk to you. Do you remember that time? He goes, no, I don't remember that. And I said, you challenged me. You said I look scared. He goes, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did. And I want to thank you for it, because you need honest communication. You need someone that will say what they see. And I really appreciated that. But it was very challenging to take.
For sure.
But if he hadn't have said it, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, if he thinks I'm scared, at least I'm not going to look like it. And I'm like, maybe I am. Maybe I'm nervous.
Especially that era. That was like the manliest era, like the 80s.
Well, it was
It
was a little difficult when I was a kid because I'd like hit a home run. Am I going to get hit in the head the next time? Because some pitchers were a little intimidating.
That's where the controversy started. That's why you didn't talk crap in the majors. You didn't want to get beamed in the head.
Well, no, you didn't. It was too much that way. But remember those days. I remember the days the high five was invented.
Right.
And I was like, can I give a player a high five, or is it too demonstrative? Am I going to get drilled the next time? Because you ran around the bases, you put your head down, you came and you shook hands with your teammates, and that was it.
Right.
So when the high five was invented, I was like, I'm not doing that at home plate because I'm going to get drilled the next time. Anyway.
See, we need that accountability in sports again. That's how hockey always was.
I think
like fight. You if you popped off and made it about you, like if you did an interview and it wasn't about the team, you got lit up. Like it's funny that you were more accountable to your, counterparts than you were from the league or anything else. I think that's a good thing sometimes.
You police yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of times in baseball, guys would get hit, which maybe is a good time to talk about the Tom Glavine thing, because I get asked about that a lot but we didn't have enough fun. I mean, it was ridiculous,
And you're right.
It's like, let guys demonstrate and be emotional. People say, these kids have too much fun. I'm like, let's just get over the old days. Let these kids have some fun. We got to have young players see these guys having fun.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a fun sport.
Right. And it's energy.
It's energy.
I remember we had the Kafusi brothers on, they played at BYU. Now they're both in the NFL. And we were talking to Bronson. He just never quite hit his potential. And then all of a sudden, late in his junior year, he's a linebacker for us. And he just started dominating. And he finally had a coach, Vic Soto, that told him, when you hit somebody, when you tackle somebody, you do whatever you want to do. If you feel like jumping and screaming and putting your arms up and do it, because he was old school. His dad's old school, and it made all the difference. Like him celebrating and yelling and letting all that emotion out.
It was him
when he sacked the player. Yes,
I'm not saying I would have done crazy stuff, but we had a lot of guys that didn't do anything in the sport.
Yep.
In some ways, it was kind of boring back then, and it
See, we could use that in hockey. Hockey still has that kind of old school.
Yeah, hockey is
reserved.
Very.
We need some personalities.
I agree. Baseball is in serious need of some personalities.
Right. And baseball never suffered with that. Back in the day,
it's happening now. We got some young players, and I'll just Ronald Acuna Jr. is one of the best young players I've ever seen. And they're very exuberant, smiling, laughing, goofing around, have fun.
Which is how it's supposed to be.
But I don't know. Okay, so
let's talk to Tom Glavine.
Okay, so speaking of, really, it's a long story, and I'm going to go real fast because speaking of policing yourself, that's kind of one of the things. Professional baseball. I'm not saying college and high school and all that stuff, but you police yourself. A guy gets out of the line. Let's say he slides in for the double play and his spikes are too high, and he spikes your second baseman in the upper thigh or something. Around the ankle's one thing, but. So then the next time the guy would get hit or something like that. You kind of, and he'd probably expect it. He goes, I shouldn't have done that. And there was kind of always those unwritten rules. Well, okay, so I'm with the Phillies. Got traded in 90. I don't think I made it back to play in Atlanta till 91. And they had a pregame ceremony for me. It was really nice. It was really awkward. I'm with the Phillies after all those years with the Braves. The first night there, we have a fight with the Atlanta Braves. And I'm on the Phillies. So Jim Fergosi was our manager. He had taken me out of the game. I was 0 for 2, and he wanted a pinch hitter. I wasn't doing very good. I was really kind of frustrated.
You were, just for people that don't know, you were with the Braves for what, 13 years at that point?
Well, yes.
I mean, and
the year
before, the Braves weren't that great. I mean, you were the Braves. So we had you coming back. That was
and I'm very thankful for. Yes, it was an exciting time. But yes, I owe everything in my career to the Braves. But I did at the end of my career get traded, and we don't need to go into that. But it was something I initiated, and a whole different story. But a lot of emotion, and so I'm 0 for 2. I don't know what happened, And Braves are winning. They got a good team in '91. They went to the World Series against the Minnesota Twins. Great series. But I'm just okay. So I'm with the Phillies. We're watching. It's about the fifth or sixth inning. One of the unwritten rules is, which really isn't getting applied to it anymore, but if your team's up too far, you stop stealing.
Right.
Because what you're making it is about you and your statistics, and we can't come back. And it's about the sixth inning, and the Braves got a 6-run lead or so. I can't remember exactly. And Otis Nixon, really good base stealer, steals second, and then steals third. And Jim Fergosi, Jim Fergosi is our manager. Is like, we're drilling him next time up. Okay, whoever's in the game,
third.
We're hitting Otis. Okay. So I'm out of the game. I'm in the locker room. That's what happens. A lot of times when you get pulled out of a baseball game, you usually just go up and shower. It's not that big a deal. And I'm watching, and Wally Ritchie comes in, who is from, I believe he's from the St. George area. Is he from the Provo area? But anyway, a friend and teammate, he comes in the game about the 7th or 8th inning. And he goes, "What's up?" And they're going like, "Well, Otis is up this inning," and Jim said, "Hit him." So Wally's like, "Okay, whatever." And so Wally hits Otis, and Otis charges the mound and comes up with a karate kick as he gets to Wally, and slices his stump. Not slice, but you can see spike marks on Wally's rib cage. And after the fight's over, Wally's jersey's torn and everything. It was kind of. The unwritten rule of fighting is you don't kick.
He keeps breaking all these rules.
Otis, you're breaking all these rules. Okay, so game's over. We have a fight. Well, the next week we're playing the Braves, and in Philly, and unbeknownst to most of us, we're like, maybe there's still some lingering issues here. Well, what we didn't know is the bullpen told Wally, if our starters don't hit Otis for what he did to you, bullpen will take care of it. We'll get him. So we didn't need the bullpen for the first 2 games. And so we're playing the third day. I think it's a Sunday game. It's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. Which
Cam just found it.
Oh, this is the fight.
This is the first one.
The first one. I didn't know that was on YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so it's about the 7th or 8th inning, and nothing's happening with Otis for 2 days. And Roger McDowell, interestingly enough, who ended up being a pitching coach 10 years later with the Braves, very good pitching coach, comes in for the Phillies. And you can see the extended replay. He almost hit Otis in the head. I mean, Otis got out of the way. I think it hit him in the shoulder. It's about 7th or 8th inning. So there's another thing, too, that you really want to get Roger. You want to get the guy that did it. You don't want to pick on some innocent guy, except if it's getaway day. And you're not going to play each other anymore. Sometimes the manager goes, we don't have a choice. We got to hit the next guy up. So bench is clear, and the Braves come in, and Bobby Cox, who saved my career, goes, we're hitting the first guy up. And Tom Glavine's pitching. He goes down and looks at the lineup card. He goes, Bobby, it's Murph. And Bobby... bless his heart, when you're not part of the team, you're not part of his team anymore. He goes, I don't care who it is. We're hitting him. So, again, you can watch it on YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to get thrown at because of my relationship with the Braves and Tom Glavine, but he is asked to throw at me, and he obviously does not want to throw at me. And you can see it. So he throws inside at the first one. It probably came in there about 65 miles an hour. And I get in there again, and I look out there, and I go, he's in his windup. I go, he's going to throw at me again. And again, about 65 miles an hour. By the third time, I'm in the batter's box creeping out. He's in his windup. You can see it. I'm stepping out of the batter's box. So it created a very weird situation where a guy that had spent all those years in Atlanta had now been asked for a young pitcher who respected me, didn't want to throw at me, and it was a big mess. And he didn't hit me. He got thrown out of the game. And that's what happened. But there's more to it. Should I go with the rest
Yes,
of the story?
yes.
So during the offseason, Kruk, our first baseman with the Phillies, and Leo Mazzoni, if you're a Braves fan, you'll remember Leo Mazzoni is the guy, the pitching coach in the 90s that was always nervous and always rocking back and forth. But he's a great pitching coach. He's with Kruk, and he goes, "Hey, Johnny, we're going to get McDowell. We're going to get what he did for what he did to Otis." He says, "We're going to get McDowell." And Kruk's like, "Well, how are you going to get McDowell? He's a relief pitcher." So 92.
Oh my gosh.
92 in June, Roger McDowell gets traded to the Dodgers. And Kruk's back then, he's looking at the box score on the training table, and I'm in the trainer's room. I was hurt most of 92. He goes, "They got him." And I go, "What happened?" He goes, "He told me that they were going to get him." So what happened was the Braves were out playing the Dodgers, went into extra innings.
Holy
Dodgers ran out of position players, had to let their pitchers hit. And Roger comes up.
And they got him?
Marvin Freeman out. And again, if you're a Braves fan, Marvin Freeman's about 6'8". Roger's up. Everybody knows if Roger McDowell ever hits against the Braves, he's going to get drilled.
Holy crap.
And
grudge.
That's how they used to police you. It used to be, it's not over till it's over.
Wow.
And Marvin Freeman drills Roger McDowell in the ribs. And Roger and Marvin said, Roger went down, got back up, and took about 5 steps toward the mound and said, "Are we even?" and Marvin said, "Yep." He goes, "Okay," and went down to first base. Anyway, that's the end of the story. It's a long one, but
wild.
Oh,
it's a funny story.
Oh, man.
Thanks for letting me share that. Everybody always asks me about it, so I always have to say that there's more to it and they always say, "Why did Bobby throw at you?" It's because Bobby loves his players, and he's not the situation called for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you lose respect for Bobby? I said, no, I actually gained respect for Bobby because I'm not an Atlanta Brave anymore. I'm the enemy.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. So thank you.
Great story. See, I wish sports, hockey, it was like that with fighting, but it's kind of gone now, and injuries have gone up because of it.
Interesting.
People don't really think about that. There's a whole documentary about a lot of these guys would say, I would rather pay a $25,000 fine than have that guy jump the boards and come and take care of me for doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And it like concussions have gone way up.
Really interesting.
It's a really interesting thing that self-policing of sports probably makes the game safer overall.
Yeah, you could probably be watching a game in the 80s, 90s, 70s, and back and see a guy get hit and not even know what's going on.
Right.
But there may have not been anything going on, but it may have been a purpose pitch, and he goes down to first base. No fights. It's like, yeah, I probably deserve that.
Right. Well, nobody wants to get hit by a 95-mile-per-hour baseball.
And I'll tell you, one of the problems with the DH is that pitchers don't hit.
Oh,
because
that's right.
Because if I'm getting thrown at, people say, now what they do is if
that's messed up.
It is, because it'd be like, Murph, he just threw at you intentionally. What did you want us to do? I was like, don't pick on their shortstop. I want the pitcher to know what it feels like.
Right.
So if you can get,
you can't bean people and then not hit. That should be against the rules.
Yeah, and I never talk about throwing at heads because that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
But if you aim at the ribs,
there's a certain spot
if you play baseball, you know what I mean. You can feel it right now. When you're in Little League and you're like, that ball's going right at my ribs and you can't move. And that's the day many of us quit.
Yikes.
Oh,
hearing those stories is really cool because there's just a lot that the press will never know about, right? And I mean that's kind of
or
our
the
reaction
average fan.
to, or the yeah. And so that's why all these sports docs and podcasts and things like that, being able to get these stories and hear the behind the scenes. It's so interesting.
I think one of the things, and baseball's doing a little bit, but the more mic'd up players are,
yes,
the better.
I love the mic'd up stuff.
I know the golfers got to get over it, but if you want to get good viewership, you have your caddy and you mic'd up.
Oh, I'd pay a subscription.
Absolutely. Can you imagine being in Augusta listening to Phil talk to his caddy about what to hit?
Well, NASCAR and Formula One does it.
Yeah.
It's like $20 a month, and you can be right in
fascinating
the car, listening.
Fascinating.
To everything.
These players should be way more open to.
Right.
You know, no one's trying to make you look bad. No one's gonna. But it's fascinating, and not just the mic'd up stuff that you show at halftime.
All of it.
Yeah, I think, and then you got to get someone you trust, you know, to censor some stuff out. But behind the scenes is fascinating stuff.
They did that so I feed the Utah Grizzlies, the minor league hockey team out here in Salt Lake quite a bit. And a couple years ago, they were flirting with the idea of headsets at the game.
Absolutely.
And and the mic was on the coach. So they let me kind of guinea pig it. It was so much fun. It was the most rated R thing I've heard in a long time. But to hear him yelling at the refs, to hear him talk to his players, who's playing bad, who's playing good, it was fascinating to listen to. And I mean, what a great way to pull people into the stadium. Like you could, if you want to do this, you have to your butt's got to be in the seats. Maybe that's one way to get more people to the park, but you're right. To be able to hear that stuff, I always talk about, I hate how networked, how do I explain this? A lot of your announcers now, broadcasters now, whether they're affiliated with a network that doesn't let them say certain things, nobody says anything controversial anymore. I would love to hear a broadcaster Vince Scully comes to mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a Dodger guy through and through. I would love to hear him say gosh, I hate that pitcher on the other team. What a piece of crap. I want to hear he's on my team and I want to hear how he feels. And I always joke I would pay monthly to have a subscription to somebody that broadcast the game and just was able to say whatever they wanted to say.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. And I feel like we're missing out on that stuff. So the mic'd up thing is along those same lines.
Yeah.
To be able to hear that interact, especially golf, because there's no team element, right? You're not hearing any secrets or anything that, the other team could pick up on. It would just be, we saw it with the Tiger and Phil with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
Those
that
are
was
interesting,
so cool.
but they're also just kind of fun.
Right.
But it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Peyton Manning was drunk and saying all sorts of funny stuff.
I watched that, and I actually thought there was going to be more trash talk.
Me too.
Because when Brady was going south, I was surprised.
And he split his pants.
Yeah, I was surprised that they weren't burying him, because that's what I kind of tuned in for.
Especially Phil. Phil is the king of
right.
I wanted to hear. All he did was try to teach everybody how to golf. It was annoying. But
if he hits one in the woods, I want you to bury Brady.
Exactly. Because you hear he's the trash talker of all trash talkers.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to hear. So,
no, that's interesting.
So you're right. But it is scary because now if you say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Which is why it's not going to happen.
Right. You say the wrong thing and you're just toast.
Pick your spots. Maybe, the fifth inning, Snitker, the manager of the Braves, tune in to channel whatever if you want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody in the fifth inning, and he knows, but it'd be interesting. And maybe golfers could say, on the fifth and eighth hole, that's all. We're not going to go on the last 9 on Sunday.
Right.
But it would be fascinating to see what goes through these guys' mind. It would be so opening. I look at what do we got here? 170. Give me a 5-iron. I don't know what I hit 170. But these guys are looking. It's fascinating. They're looking at the wind. They're looking at their lie. They're looking at the pin placement. It's fascinating.
Well, and how many times are they going to look in their little book?
That little book. What's it say in that book? I want one of those.
I want to know what that book says. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, even putting that online after.
I was playing golf, and you know how they got the yardage on the sprinkler heads.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm in a scramble. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't tell how far the green is. Like I see a sprinkler head, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to say 210. It says, just hit it.
Did it really?
On the sprinkler head. So just hit
That's really funny. It is funny how the yardage thing, because not a lot. We're so inconsistent. Most just recreational golfers. It's like, oh yeah, I can hit that 150. Yeah. and you just shank it into the wood. So that's really funny. Just hit it. They should do little hidden messages on sprinkler heads like that more often.
It was really relaxing.
Cheer us up. Yeah.
I started laughing. I was like, okay, I can't. In other words, you can't reach the screen. What are you thinking?
So, Dale, what are you up to now? You got a lot of really cool stuff you're working on.
Oh, well, as we mentioned before, we got Murph's. We're part owners of a great little restaurant near the ballpark in Atlanta.
How did that come about?
Yeah,
just in a nutshell.
I got to meet a guy, one of my partners, Matt Helms, is also real involved in sports memorabilia.
Right.
And we were talking and struck up a friendship. I did a few things for him. And the Braves were moving the ballpark north to Cobb County. And I said, hey, if I knew that he had been involved in a couple restaurants. And I said, would you ever want to partner and maybe look around the ballpark in Atlanta? He said, yeah, and I know who we're going to bring in. And my other partner's Chuck Douglas. And so we've been there 3 years and have had a great time by the ballpark, reconnecting with Braves fans. I got some of my memorabilia and stuff like that there. And Chuck put together a great menu. We got great burgers. We have fried cheese curds in Atlanta, which, because Matt, my first partner, is from Wisconsin. He goes, we're going to serve fried cheese curds. No one is even going to know what a fried cheese curd is. He says, yeah, wait till they start them. So that's one of our signature things. And then COVID hit. So Chuck is trying to keep us going. So I got that. I love to speak. I was doing a lot of speaking. If people want to reach me, I'm at dalemurphy.com. You can email me there. All my socials are, I'm out on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn.
You're fun to follow on Twitter.
Well,
you're pretty active on Twitter.
Twitter's a weird thing.
It is a weird place. It's a scary place. Your best to just post and then leave.
No, and I've learned I have posted political stuff.
Post and leave.
And political stuff. Twitter is not probably the best place to have a good rational debate about anything political.
I don't think anything rational happens on Twitter.
So Instagram's fun, and LinkedIn is really a place that it's really kept their platform business oriented. So I'm on there, and so I like to speak. That's one thing I really like to do now that I haven't done a lot, obviously, in person the last few months, but enjoy doing Zoom, drop in on Zoom meetings. It's a lot of fun. So I can do some business type, sharing my stories on resilience if you want to reach out to me. And those are kind of the things I'm doing. I still, occasionally do some signings, which at first was kind of weird for me, but especially in-person signings with people is really an enjoyable thing because we have quite a memorabilia collection culture in our country that's a lot of fun to participate in. And,
for sure. And
with fake signatures out there, people love the interaction. So that hasn't happened a lot the last few months.
Well, you were always kind of known for that too. Sticking around and signing autographs and just being really accessible to fans.
Some of that got a little exaggerated.
Really?
Well, yeah. I remember Dale Murphy signed for 3 hours after the game. I tried to, I'll tell you what I tried to be, which I think players need to realize is you can't sign every autograph, but sign some.
Right.
And then when you have to go, be a little respectful and understand and kind of apologize. And I tried to sign when I could, but a lot of it was at the ballpark, so you really had to go do some things. But I appreciate that. I tried to understand that, and I guess what I'm saying now, at this older age, it's really fun to reconnect with fans. And
cool.
When you're doing your experience thing too, right?
That's the other thing I wanted to ask
you for bringing that up. Again, on going to dalemurphy.com, we have we've had such a blast. Speaking of reconnecting with fans, where we have an MVP experience, I think we have 5 scheduled for next year. In Atlanta, we have lunch at Murph's. We have a pregame kind of meeting, and I speak to the fans. And we have a number of things we do between the game and eating at Murph's. Usually a tour of the ballpark, and I accompany. It's just it's been a great experience. And then we go to the ball game. And a lot of time we'll go, if people are familiar with Truist Park, out in the Home Depot clubhouse, which is a great spot. We have the whole clubhouse to ourselves. We watch the game, have drawings during the game, pictures, autographs, a lot of fun. Yes, the MVP experiences are up on our website.
That's
scheduled for next year.
Very
and so,
cool.
Nancy, now being a grandpa, we're just busy. I try to just keep doing things and and would love to open another restaurant. Am I crazy?
Yes. Yes, you are.
I've learned so much.
I get that question a lot.
Would you want to do it out here or back in Atlanta?
People have talked about it, but I understand now. I understand how hard work it is. And
yeah.
I would love to have a presence out here. Baseball, Portland, Oregon is trying to get a baseball team. I'm part of that group.
That'd be cool.
And I think Portland would be fantastic. And people say, you're going to bring a Murphs out there? And I've already talked to them. I said, yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing is really now between that and our grandkids, Nancy and I are trying to stay busy, and it's been a really weird couple months now. So hopefully we can get through this thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it's been fun. I talked a lot. I apologize.
No, this is awesome. It's funny. I'm like fighting asking more questions.
The older I get, I don't know. I never would have talked about this long 30 years ago. So thanks for having me on. I love reminiscing now. It's really is. Cool. The older you get, the more, the older you get, the better you were, stuff like that. And I enjoy it more than when I was a kid. So thanks for letting me be a part of the nitty gritty and congratulations. Thanks for letting me be on. It's fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Wait, can I just ask one more question?
You're going to ruin everything.
This is why I'm asking now. I wanted to wait till we had an ending just in case he doesn't want to answer this.
Okay.
So we have a clean ending. I really want your opinion on Pete Rose.
Oh, yeah.
So I just watched a documentary about it.
And
with your Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah.
And being absolutely screwed, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
I was watching, there was a documentary just the other day. Oh, darn it. What's it called? It was on ESPN.
Was it a 30 for 30 on Pete? Or
it's not 30 for 30. It's newer.
Oh,
it just
I'll
came
have to
out.
Check it out.
It came out post sport. So now that Major League is like partnered with all the sports betting, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now he's going to get in, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, I just wondered if you had an opinion about it.
I've said I'm not in favor of lifetime bans.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of, so the rule is you can't bet on the game that you're part of the industry. You can't bet on baseball, and it's posted in every clubhouse. And you can't bet on a game you're participating in, et cetera, et cetera. He was manager. Doesn't matter what he did was wrong, and he should be severely punished for
sure.
25, 30 years. That's a pretty healthy.
Oh yeah,
healthy punishment. Lifetime. I'm not sure if 25 or 30 years just doesn't accomplish the same thing as lifetime.
Right.
I get what you want to do. You want to scare people into thinking that you will be done forever, but 25 to 30 years is pretty much done forever. So I think it shouldn't be lifetime. I think he should go into the Hall of Fame. But I am in the minority on that.
It's really interesting.
I think he's served his punishment.
I agree.
Is what I'm saying.
I agree. Especially with the sports betting thing. I mean, now the Major League Baseball is actually partnered with DraftKings, so they are advertising and
gambling in baseball will become more. It's still happening. It's not like football,
right?
But with the Supreme Court saying every state now, besides, it's a matter of time, and I understand it and I get it, but I'm a little worried about in the venue betting, which is what they're talking about.
It's crazy.
You make an error in the seventh inning and you cost 10,000 of those people.
Who knows how much money?
I mean,
fantasy football is even that way. Yeah. Taysom said that it's scary because you'll have people come up and be actually pissed off at you because you cost them a fantasy game.
Absolutely. And
so imagine betting now
in the stadium.
Yeah, in real time.
In real time. So even what he's talking about is a little separated.
Right.
It's still an issue. But now you're talking about bringing it in the stadiums? I'm just not so sure. Now, we all know sports is bet on, and I get the ruling. It shouldn't, I don't have a problem with it. I get that. But so anyway, that does bring up the Pete Rose situation. What he did was, people said, well, he did it as a manager. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It ruins the integrity of a manager's decision when he's got money on the game.
For sure.
It was wrong what he did.
For sure. And he lied about it.
And he lied. He hasn't.
Bold-faced lied about it.
He hasn't helped his.
Until he wanted to sell his books. So, I mean, I get it.
No, he's had a lot of problems with being reinstated. That's his own issue.
Right.
But if all things being equal, and he probably would have, I would say if it happens again, then in 25 years we should let the guy back in. I don't know. I mean, it's not that cut and dried.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you answering the question because it is. You watch that documentary,
Well, right now,
crazy
think about it. We got arguably the best pitcher, Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
Arguably the best power hitter, Barry Bonds,
Right.
which there is an argument about it, and the best singles hitter in the history of the game. None of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Who's the singles hitter?
Well, Pete.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He leads the majors in base hits.
Right.
4,000.
Jeez.
41.92.
And none of them are there.
But Barry and Rogers are steroid issues. But it looks like that things are softening up there. But it's kind of
and that's the thing. I would
interesting
think
dilemma.
the gambling on your own game would be forgiven before the performance enhancing,
Well, there's
right?
that's
it's weird.
It really messed up a lot of things with the game, integrity of records, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
yeah. You could go down the line.
Do you think the steroid thing hurt you for the Hall of Fame? Just because your numbers, which were just awesome, seem a little smaller now?
Yeah, that possibly, but my numbers are debatable anyway. I'm not trying to be negative about it. Well, thank you. I wish you had a vote.
Way.
I wish you had a vote, but you know, there are some things. There are some things unrelated to that issue, but
right.
I would say I don't think it's helped me.
Right.
Because my numbers do look. I mean, you know, a lot of people ended up hitting over 500 home runs and
right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Crazy.
yeah, so it hasn't helped me, but anyway, yeah.
Well, thanks for answering those. That's really
thank
cool.
you.
I just really wanted your opinion on it because it's always cool to hear from somebody that's in the game, and just wondering if your perspective is off or not.
Pete's is a lifetime ban. Is he going in after he dies?
Which he could now, right?
I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I mean, there are. Who's the other? Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Joe
the other one.
never went in,
right?
And so,
man, he was truthful about the whole thing. He didn't throw it. He had the stats to back up that he didn't throw it, but he took the money.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Telling the truth didn't help him either. So it's kind of like. Can't really blame Pete Rose for lying about it.
I definitely get the rule. We can't have the integrity of what people are seeing
for sure
in doubt. That's why the NBA reffing situation.
Yeah.
Oh my! You got to be kidding me.
For sure.
That was brutal. And any sport that people are questioning the integrity of what they're seeing, if it's a real good competition, a fair competition, that's problematic.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it'll be a slippery slope, I think, with the sports betting. So hopefully they can figure it out.
It'll be fascinating to watch.
Because baseball, if you think about betting, I don't know that there's a better sport as far as real time betting.
Oh, you could bet on
because all the pitching, all the hitting, there's
what's the odds of me throwing a ball? Or
I mean,
exactly right. Yeah. How many strikeouts this inning? Go
double, triple.
Anyway,
it's going to be interesting.
Thanks so much.
Thank you guys. Good luck to you. Thank you.